In the summer of 2022, my husband Ted and I traveled to Wyoming's Wind River Range to experience a 6-day backpacking trip to explore Cirque of the Towers. The Cirque is a stunning semicircle of 15, 12,000-foot craggy mountain peaks that form a portion of the Continental Divide. We've been hearing so many rave reviews of this area. Many consider it to be the most spectacular trip in Wyoming, and we've been wanting to explore it for years. We've been enjoying our pattern of exploring national wilderness areas versus national parks because of the less crowds, and we wanted to get to this magical area before too many people discover it. The winds are located in the Bridger Wilderness area of western Wyoming. Our route into the Cirque began at the Big Sandy Trailhead, the most remote and isolated trailhead in the Wind River Range, some 25 miles from the nearest paved road. However, because of the popularity of this area, it is also the most heavily used Bridger Wilderness trailhead. Because of our late afternoon arrival, we were lucky to find parking right up front near the trailhead. All right, ready to go? Since we had a late start, we decided to aim for Dad's Lake, a relatively easy 6-mile hike, and we arrived in time for a beautiful sunset and prime mosquito hour. The bugs were worth it for the view. Our campsite looked over the lake with the low ice-polished domes in the distance. Day 2 was another hike to another lake. Most backpackers heading into the Cirque stop at Dream Lake before continuing to the pass. But since we had stopped a bit earlier the day before, we decided to continue further and ended up at Billy's Lake in the late afternoon. Since we had the time, we rested and then did some fly fishing. Even I caught multiple fish at this lake. The next day we got going early because we heard a storm was coming. We had been warned about the difficulty of crossing Jackass Pass even in the best of weather. Jackass Pass, at 11,500 feet above sea level, is the highest point in the loop, with 40 to 60% grade at times. Many experienced hikers have commented that this was one of their toughest hikes, and we had the pleasure of doing it as sleety rain began coming down. I wasn't able to take much video of this portion of the trip because my camera was tucked safely in the backpack, but we do have photos to document our trip over the pass. We arrived at Lizard Meadows area as the rain began to let up, and we were happy to find a site with a view of the Cirque. Then we just needed to wait for the clouds to dissipate so we could actually see the top of the spires. Day 4 was a relaxing day hike up to another lake with our fly fishing gear. That lake, however, mysteriously and unfortunately seemed to be completely empty of fish. So we relaxed and bathed in the fresh water with a spectacular view. On our way back to the campsite, we found some other streams and ponds, and Ted had more success at those. Day 5, we headed out of the Cirque via Jackass Pass. Despite its name, it was less difficult than Texas Pass and offered amazing sights all around us as we went up and over. Coming down, we ended up drifting off the main trail to a climber's trail that may have been shorter and more direct, but was also pretty difficult to maneuver, climbing boulders with our backpacks on. We camped at yet another lake with yet another amazing view. This was Big Sandy Lake, which is one of the most popular camping areas, but we avoided the crowds by continuing halfway around the lake. It was peaceful but buggy. Day 6, after seeing our first and only bears of the trip safely across the lake, we headed out of the camp and back to our trailhead, a relatively easy and flat stretch through fields of wildflowers. We rewarded ourselves at the end of our trip with the infamous burgers at Big Sandy Lodge. It was a perfect way to end a perfect trip.